I went into the coaching session with her and I was like, I got to confess, I have a major issue with myself. I'm a great starter. I'm not a great finisher. I said, I sat up in bed for 3 hours and I worked on this talk, but I fell short. I couldn't finish it. I couldn't map out what I was going to say at the end. And this is a problem. And I sat in front of her waiting for her to tell me, like, all the techniques or the hacks or whatever that I needed to do to correct myself, to make myself, quote unquote, unbroken. And I'll never forget, she just stopped and she looked at me and she said, Erin, are you typically successful? I said, not in everything, but yes. And in general, especially when it comes to speaking in public, that's something I do, better than average. And she just said to me, well, why don't you trust your creative process? Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Erin, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom, because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world, but fed up with the BS.
I know. It's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
Yeah, it's career therapy. It's comedy. It's definitely full on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Oh, my friends, it's Erin here. I hope you're having a wonderful summer. It's the end of July. I'm actually just getting back from a 2-week vacation. Don't hate me, in Greece. If you're not aware, I married a Greek, Hatsakostas, and he actually was born here, but his father was born in Greece, and his family, much of it's from there, and they not only have a place on the island of Rhodes, but he spent most of his summers going back there. His grandparents would literally pick him up. I think his first passport is adorable. He was like 9 months old, and they would take him all summer for years until he kind of got into maybe his teenage years, and it got harder with sports and friends and all of that. So it's kind of his second home. And because of all of that, he speaks the language. And because of all of that, also, when we go, I always say we get to live the village life, not the commercial life. We actually stay in a small little village called Yanadi on the island of Rhodes. You wake up in the morning and you walk less than, I don't know, 200 feet down to either the bakery or the little fruit shop or to get a frappe at one of the restaurants. And we're maybe a quarter mile from the beach. And there's just little taverns and everything everywhere, but it's also small and it's humble and there's some beautiful places, but there's also poverty and dilapidated houses. And it's just a very sort of normal Greek dwelling, Greek town. And well, I don't know. I won't say it's normal because it's amazing. It's beautiful. We danced in the streets. We went to the beach. We took day trips. We went to the city. We also spent a little time in Crete, and that was wonderful too. But that's not why I got on here. But I will tell you, so many people say, "Oh, it's on my bucket list." Don't put it on your bucket list. Just go. Go. Don't wait. It's such a warm and inviting country. Many of them speak English. In fact, a lot of times my husband will speak Greek and they'll speak English back. It's a little bit of a trek from the US, a little further than, most of Europe. It's a little further flight, but it's so worth it. So if you've been thinking about it, don't wait. Go do some research, reach out to me. I mean, I'm not a Greek expert because we mostly go to Rhodes, but we did go to Crete this time as well. And I've been to Santorini and Mykonos through a cruise, etc. But anyway, that's not why I got on. I got on because I wanted to tell you about sort of a journey over the last 9 months that I've kind of gone through, which feels a little bit full circle, feels ironic, and certainly a little bit hypocritical. And I thought I'd share it with you. As you probably know, I'm an authenticity addict. I preach authenticity. We talk about the 50% rule in my second book and how you always need to do things half normal, half new. Anytime you're doing something, just throw out the stuff that isn't you, that's inauthentic, that you don't want to do, all of those things. And I'm also a professional speaker. That's my main occupation. We don't make any money from the podcast. We're either too stupid or too lazy, or and we don't. We do the podcast, Nicole and I, and the people we have on, because we love it. So speaking is how I keep my family fed and ability to go on Greek vacations. And my speaking career really started to rise this past summer. And there was a milestone that happened this summer of last year. I was selected to speak at the International Association of Speaking Bureaus. So these are the people, these are like the brokers of the industry. Not all speaking gigs are done, booked and managed through them, but they largely manage the largest events, and many events where they are essentially there to act on behalf of the event organizer and learn what their goals, objectives, et cetera, are, and then put together a slate of candidates, speaker candidates to consider. And they have to do this because there's literally hundreds of thousands of speakers, and it feels like every year that escalates as the barriers to entry are a little bit lower. You can learn how to do anything online and start websites, et cetera. So anyway, as you can imagine, getting to speak at their conference is a big deal. And there's an application process. I applied last summer, and there were almost 100 applicants. I'm actually surprised there weren't more, but you do have to pay $500, whatever. And I was selected. There were 6 of us out of almost 100. And so this felt like one of those moments, right? Like, when you're doing this career, it's so up and down, and it's hard. Every day you're essentially interviewing, constantly trying to find your next job. We work, my speaking fees $15,000. I work for every one of those, whether it's a sales call like I had yesterday where I get on with them, or they're quote unquote researching me behind the scenes, looking at my videos and my content. Um, so it's hard. Just when you think you made it, you didn't. Anybody that's in this industry would tell you it's a total roller coaster. But this felt like a really big moment. And so I went into preparation mode. And before that, and before I was selected, actually, I'd kind of had this moment where I was like, okay, I'm really picking up steam. I've decided to go all in on speaking, but I've never really had an actual speech coach. I've been in programs. I've learned how to craft a keynote. Not that I had never trained before. I invest all the time in coaches and training, but I never had like a true speech vocal coach. And I felt like that was the next big step. And so I was already working with Darcy. Darcy Webb is her name. She's an angel from above. Well, she's still here on earth, but she's my angel on earth. Absolutely adore her and love her. And the sessions were amazing. She really did a good job of bringing out the best in me, not just sort of making me conform, but understanding what made me me. I tend to have a lot of facial gestures, and she really helped me embrace that. She also smacked me around and told me to stop whispering. I'm like, I'm not whispering. And she's like, yes, you are. And I'm like, that's me trying to make an emphasis on something. And then I watch the tapes and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's kind of weird. It's not a whisper, but it's weird. And so made so much progress with her. And then she also really instilled in me, which so many have, like, Erin, you have to rehearse. You have to rehearse. You have to put in the hours. You have to come in, whether it's in front of her or on my own, in the basement, recorded, go over it and over it and over it and over it. And I resisted. And then this opportunity to speak at the International Association of Speaking Bureaus came up. And not only was it a big event, but you only get 20 minutes. And what you might not understand, in the speaking world, shorter is harder. Sometimes people will have a tight budget and they're like, well, what if you only spoke for 30 minutes instead of 60 minutes? And I'm like, that's harder. I might even charge you more because you have to be more concise. You have to be more selective. You have to make your point in less amount of time. And so it actually is more difficult. So because I only had 20 minutes, because this was a huge opportunity, I thought, okay, it's time. It's time to get your shit together, Erin. If you want to be this mega professional speaker, you have to embrace the rehearsal. And I got there. I had some weird barriers. I found ways that worked for me. and I rehearsed. Now, by the way, I have to say, I also still had PTSD, and part of my rehearsal woes were that when I did my TEDx back in 2020, I did the same thing because TEDx is even shorter and they actually really want you to stick to a script. And I still to this day, I don't want to say I hate my TEDx, but because I had rehearsed it so much and also because it was COVID and we ended up having to basically have no audience. So I was delivering it to a couple of AV guys and a photographer. I love the content, but the delivery is just not me. It's just not me. I am not good at acting. My passion just never comes through if I'm perfectly crafted. So anyway, I prepared and prepared for this IASB, and I felt great because I was giving my best material, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the event came, and I didn't flop, but I didn't knock it out of the park. And I'm I'm always trying to knock it out of the park. And never because I've worked the hardest or I'm the best, but because I'm unique and I'm different and I connect with people. That's what authenticity does. And I realized reflecting on that, and I had a lot of other excuses. I had somebody that went after me that absolutely crushed it out of the park. I had this necklace that was jangling. Like I was sort of like leaning on everything else but myself. And what I realized is not only did I over prepare, but because I wasn't in that moment feeling it for them as speaking bureau agents, because we were kind of told, don't worry, you don't have to speak specifically to speaking bureau agents. They mostly want a quote unquote showcase. They want to see what it would be like if they brought you to their clients. And their clients are typically corporations and associations. And so I didn't have that thing in me, that just conviction and animation and that thing that just draws from like the depths of my being and pours it into them. But I learned how to rehearse. And so then for the next several months, as I had events in January and February and March, now I had caught this bug and I was like rehearsing and I was crafting things that were really catchy and I was adding new words and I was making sure I nailed them. And I didn't notice it at first. I would have one event and it would go well, but uh, it just didn't feel like the other ones. I have another one. I'm like, oh, weird crowd. Like, usually people are just like, I didn't want it to be over. They're flooding me. And again, and success is not based on my ego and, how many people tell me how great I am, but you can tell that feeling, that look in people's eyes when you're done. And I didn't bomb. They went well. I put together some really good material, did some other good things. I really leaned into some unique ways to customize my talks. I've had so much fun. I've done so many creative things now that each time I go to a new audience, I have something fun and new. I have one on Saturday that I can't disclose because they actually don't publish their speakers beforehand. They want it to be a surprise. But I'm doing a really unexpected, kind of funny, but a great point out of what I'm doing for the opening. And so I'm loving that. And I learned so much from the rehearsals and getting comfortable with taking the time to prepare a new, very customized components to each speech. It's never totally new. But then I think in May, it was when I did an event in Chicago. And I mean, I nailed it. I said all the things I was meant to say. I didn't forget things, but just something, it wasn't there. And I realized that I had to probably test if that I over prepared and didn't what I don't do when I over prepare in rehearsing is I give up the time that I used to use to really sit and think about the intent of each section. Because all of my talks, they're mapped out, there's sections. Not every word is written down by any means, but there's a structure. And what I started to do when I was preparing was you just like literally going and writing it out more. What I used to do was spend more time like, okay, in this section, like, what am I really trying to get across? And then I would allow myself that freedom to do that. I mean, I would still have some catchphrases and some things I would land on, But that improv, that in that moment, not only because I can give more feeling, but also because that allows me space to reflect on things I heard earlier in the day when I was there, or things that come to mind, or interact more with the audience because I am in that moment. And so I finally allowed myself to go back to that. And the first event I did that for was one I had end of June, and then again beginning of July, and then that's how I'm doing this next one. And I'm back. I'm back. I feel it. And I know if you talk to 100 speakers that are super successful, 99 of them will tell you, you got to do the reps, you got to practice, you got to rehearse. Well, that works for those 99 people. It doesn't work for me. Hey guys, Erin here. Stop, 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 stop. Do not do it. Don't fast forward. I have something too important. I have a couple of very passive aggressive questions to ask you that you don't want to miss. Here they are. 1, do you find yourself often comparing yourself to others? Like, they work harder than me, they get noticed more than me, they have better luck than me, they're smarter than me. Or do you also just feel exhausted from having to always work as hard, if not harder, than everybody else to stand out and succeed? I know you have these challenges. We all do. And this is why I wrote the 50% rule. And I know you need to read another book like you need a hole in the head. But I'm telling you, this book and this rule, I'm obsessed with it. And it has changed my life. It has changed the lives of others around us. And it has also been the formula for success behind so many successful people. Savannah Bananas, Hamilton, Weird Al Yankovic. The 50% rule is the simplest shortcut to stop comparing, stop copying, stop chasing other people, and literally compete in your league of your own. There isn't a day that doesn't go by where I stop myself and I'm like, oh, she did a talk that I wish I could do. She's got more. No, it doesn't matter. Because we don't compete in the same league. I compete in a league of my own because I am constantly 50% ruling things. So if you're interested in this concept, which, by the way, is more fun as a team sport, but at least start with yourself. You cannot miss this book. It's not only powerful, it's really freaking fun to read. That is always my number one goal. It was my number one goal with my first book. It's my number one goal with the 50% rule. I want to make it enjoyable to read it. Why? So that you read it. So if you feel like you are stuck with these comparison cramps or just all the symptoms that I talk about in the book of sleep running syndrome, self-doubt gout, and pioneer paralysis, and well, you have to read the book to find out more, then just go buy the darn book. Easiest way, go to Amazon, search the 50% rule, and I cannot wait to hear how you 50% rule things. The end of the day, what I didn't do when I had that vocal coach and when I was going through this last year and trying to sort of up level, I didn't 50% rule it. I didn't recognize that for me, there were some things I had need to throw out. And this perfection of rehearsing, which then I spent more time searching for the words than searching for the feeling and the passion. I can't do both of them. Maybe some people can. I mean, actors can. This is what they do, right? Every line is rehearsed for the most part. I'm not an actor. I don't do well that way. And it got me reflecting back on something that my first ever executive coach taught me. She was actually somebody that I had back when I was in corporate. And I was preparing for a speech, and it was for our leadership event. And I had prepared the whole thing, not word for word, but I had a good structure. And then at the end, I had written, and some bada boom, bada bing ending. And I went into the coaching session with her, and I was like, I got to confess, I have a major issue with myself. I'm a great starter. I'm not a great finisher. I said, I sat up in bed for 3 hours and I worked on this talk, but I fell short. I couldn't finish it. I couldn't map out what I was going to say at the end. And this is a problem. And I sat in front of her waiting for her to tell me, like, all the techniques or the hacks or whatever that I needed to do to correct myself, to make myself, quote unquote, unbroken. And I'll never forget, she just stopped and she looked at me and she said, "Are you, Erin, are you typically successful?" I said, "Not in everything, but yes, and in general, especially when it comes to speaking in public, that's something I do, you know, better than average." And she just said to me, "Well, why don't you trust your creative process?" And that has stuck with me to this day. That was probably 8 plus years ago. Trust your creative process. It's kind of like the 50% rule, but it's specific to who you are. And there are going to be so many people that tell you absolutes. Like my favorite on Instagram right now, you've probably seen it. There's like some ads or some woman that's like, never, ever start your conversation with how you doing. And I actually commented on one and said, never take advice from somebody that says never or always. It's never absolute. You have to trust your creative process. At the end of the day, what makes you special? What makes other speakers special? Their ability to just, command the stage and flow through things and make people laugh on a scripted basis. God freaking bless them. God bless them. I have some really good friends and speakers I admire that are really good at this. That's not me. That's not where I bring value. And I think because my material in particular is something I'm so, so deeply connected to. And I'm not saying other speakers aren't, but this is just like what I talk about is so ingrained in me. It's so deep. I've been doing this for freaking 7.5 years, the same topic, different slants, different books, different takeaways, but I believe in it so much that a script actually takes it backwards for me. And so it's just been a really interesting reflection. I feel like I was telling my speaking manager, I'm back to the old Erin. I'm back to the person that was why they selected me, I'm sure, to be at the International Association and Speaking Bureaus. They didn't select me because they're like, "Oh, she must really rehearse a lot." They selected me because I was authentic. And I talk about authenticity, go figure. And I will never phone it in. I have a talk this Saturday that I've been prepping. I have spent endless hours, including luckily I had a long flight back from Greece, thinking and putting together unique stories and examples. And I've been rehearsing this morning in my own way in the basement, going through certain sections, but never saying exactly the same thing each time, but really focusing in on what's the intent, what's the passion in each of these sections, each of these points I want to make. I want the same for you. And people are going to tell you all the time, whenever you go to a board meeting, you should do it this way. Whenever you interview, here's the questions or the answers that you should do and how you should prepare. In order to find your career path, let me tell you how to do it. And there's more and more people out there, right? Because you can find things online, information is everywhere, and people make a lot of money off of telling you absolutes. I have the formula. It's just $9.99. Subscribe, right? But you have to trust your own creative process. You have to trust the data. What's worked for you in the past, actually, it might work in the future. How do you evolve? But 50% rule it. Take some of the things that other people do that make them better, throw some of it in the trash. Constantly look for ways to improve without throwing away what makes you you. So that's what I hope for you. I hope you learn from my lesson. I'm excited for the future now. I feel like I have the perfect combination. I have now this training and these insights and these gurus. I also did this Alexander technique thing that is really weird and awkward that my vocal coach recommended, but it has made me a stronger speaker. My presence has helped me stay connected physically. So I'm continuing to evolve, but I'm never going to give up the creative process that works for me. Hopefully this helps. Again, I hope you had a great summer, and I'll talk to you again soon. Hey, it's Erin with a teeny request. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast and you'd like us to stick around, plus you want it to continue to grow so we can kind of swindle bigger and more knowledgeable guests to join us and to keep providing you with tangible and inspiring actions you can take to achieve the career and life you deserve, could you please just take 1 minute to leave us a rating and a review? Those reviews go a long way in attracting guests to the show, and candidly, they really make Nicole and I's day. We see you. We really do. So when you have the time and inspiration, we'd love to see a rating and review from you. Thank you.